It's time for a new Frontend Mentor challenge. Today we're gonna do this contact form challenge. We are gonna go through form validation and for submission. Very important topic for a front-end developer. It's the main reason JavaScript was invented initially. And this is the design of the form. These are the error messages, and this is the mobile design, and this is the success state when the form is submitted successfully. And we are gonna do this with reactjs. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Now this channel is about to hit 50k subscribers, so I want to thank you for that. In fact, I'm kidding. We're gonna hit 50 without K, but I do appreciate each and every one of you, and I thank you for your support. If you haven't yet, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Let's get started with our form. This is where we're gonna start. I already made this form and I did all of the styling. The focus of this video will not be on CSS, but you will have, as always, public GitHub repo. Anyway, let's get started with our code, and let me show you my React project structure. Now this is my app.jsx file. As you can see, I'm having the main container and only have h1, and I'm rendering the form component. Inside this form component is my form, and here are all of my inputs. I have two inputs for the name, one for the email. I have two radio buttons for the query type, and I also have one text area for the message, and finally one checkbox for the consent to being contacted. Okay, let's get started with this form. First, we need to find a way to get the values users put into these inputs, and in React there are two main ways to do that, are with useRef and useState hooks. For our purpose, we are gonna use state. So here, before we return, we will define a state. Now I can do this, for example, for each and every field. So I will say first name and set first name like this. Use state, which must be imported from React. And initially I can set the state to an empty string. And then on my input with the ID of first name, all of my inputs has the ID and the name property. So here I can connect the value to the first name state, and then I can have on change property, and then we have event, and we set first name with e.target.value. In this way, we need to do that for each and every input, and I believe we have 6 of them. So that's why I decided not to do it this way. Instead of that, I will have only one state for all of my inputs and checkboxes. So let's say we'll call this state values, and the function will be set values. And initially it will be an empty object like that. In fact, I will define initial values for this object, and I can do that above my component function. I will define a constant called, let's say, initial values, and it will be an object with the next fields. We will have first name, which will be an empty string, and we will copy this down. Then we will have the last name. Then we will have an email. Then we will have a query. And it's important these keys in this object should have the same name, and I'm gonna use the name property. So it's important to match all of my names with these key properties. Okay, next I believe is a message field. Then I only have a consent left. But this is a checkbox, so instead of empty string as a value for this key, I will put false, meaning that my checkbox is not checked initially. Okay, and then for my initial state, I will put this object, just like that. And then I will define a function. My function will be called handle changes, and it will get an event object as an argument, and this function will update my state. So I will say set values, and I will have my previous state, and then I want to return an object which has all of the same fields as my previous state, but the only field I will change is the field which has the same key as id.target.name, meaning that the changes are made on that field. For example, if it is the input with the name of first name, this field will be changed in my state. So how can I do that? I will get e.target.name and put the value to e.target.value. But as you can see, my editor is giving me errors. I cannot have my key like this. It should be in a square brackets. Okay, now I need to connect this value state and my function to all my input fields. Okay, so for my first name, the value will be value state dot first name, and on change will be handle changes. Okay, I will copy this for all of my input fields. We have the next is the last name, only I need here last name. Then I have an email field. Here it will be values.email. Okay, and then I have my two radio inputs. This here the situation is different. I already have the value field for all of my two inputs. So still on change it will be the same function, but here instead of value I will say checked property, and if the radio button is checked, it will be controlled with our state. Our state is initially an empty string, but when the user checks this radio, the value of my state will be this value. Okay, so I will see if the radio is checked with accessing values.query, and if that is equals to, I will copy the value of this field. So if my state is general inquiry, this button will be checked, and if it's the other button, it will be the value will be support request. Okay, just like that. Okay, next we have our message field, which is a text area, and here my value should be values.message, and also on change I will have handle changes. Okay, just like we did for the rest of the fields. And finally, on my checkbox, I will have the same thing. It will be values.consent, and on change, handle changes. Okay, now we bind all of our fields with our state, and now we just need to create this function. In fact, we did create the handle changes function, but we do need to change this function a little bit. Okay, in fact, we only need to make changes for the checkbox field, because it should be either true or false. For all the rest of the fields, the value for these keys should be e.target.value. Therefore, I need to make a check here and see if the type of my input is checkbox. And to do that, I will do object destructuring, and I will pull out everything I need from e.target. So this should be more readable. So I will pull out name, value, type of my target, and also what else do I need? I need checked property. Okay, so here I will remove e.target. It should be only name, and here it should be only value. Okay, so I'm putting the name key of my object to the value that is entered. But I will do here a checked, and I will check if the type of my input is checkbox. In that case, of course, I'm using ternary operator. In that case, I want to put as my state, I want to put checked property, and else I want to put the value. So if my type of input is checkbox, I will put for this property, I will put checked. Meaning, if my checkbox is checked, this value will be true, and otherwise it will be false. In every other case, I want to put here the value either user entered, or for the case of radio button, one of these two values, either general inquiry or support request. I hope this makes sense. I'm doing my best to explain the best I can. Sorry if it's confusing. Okay, let's test what we did here. Let's create a function for submitting form. And we will bind this function to our form, of course with onSubmit. And here, of course, we need first to prevent the browser default behavior. And then we can console log our state, our entered values. So console log, I'll console log the values. Alrighty, let's save this and test this out. So I will fill all of my fields. By the way, this is my email address. You can contact me there if you want. For the message, I'll say hello, and I will check my checkbox. And now I'll submit my form. Of course, nothing happens Here, let me make this a little bigger and open our DevTools to see what we have. You can see in our console, we have an object. Okay, my consent field is true. And I have my email, name, and selected query type. Okay, awesome. That is great. That is working. But now we need to take care of the form validation. We should not let, for example, if I reload this and I submit an empty form, now I'm logging an empty object, and I don't want that. As you can see, all of my fields here has this star and they are required. Now, you might have noticed that I have some paragraphs here with the class name of error message. These are our error messages. As you can see, this field is required. I want to show these errors if the user did not fill any fields, or for example, for the email, if it is not the correct email address. As you can see, I'm having these paragraphs, but they are not visible because of this class. Let me show you in my CSS. I have a class of, let me find it quickly. Here it is, error class, and it has displayed none. If I comment this out, in fact, I will leave it like that. Let me show you now. You can see now my error messages are here. Okay, for each and every field. Okay, so instead of with CSS, we will do this with inside our React component. We will conditionally render these paragraphs only if we have messages. And you're guessing, for that we will need another piece of state. So I will define a new state, let's say errors, and set errors, and this will be useState again. Okay, now you've probably noticed that we have different error messages for different fields. Therefore, I will define an object as my state, because I want to check for every field if there is a error, and to handle error on every input field separately. So therefore I will again use an object for my initial state, and then I will make, let's say, above my submit for function, I will make a function called validate form. And let's see what this function needs to do. Like I said, I will do this for every single field, and first I will define an empty object. Let's say my state is called errors, so let's define this form errors. Let's call it form errors, and initially it will be an empty object. Okay, now what I will do an if checked for each of my fields I'm having. So first I will say if values.first name, if that's equals to an empty string, which means that I have nothing in my field. The user haven't entered anything. If that's the case, I will add a new key to my form errors object, and it will be first name. So form errors.first name, and it should be a string saying this field is required. Of course, it's in one line, so I don't need curly braces here. Okay, now let's do this some more times. So I will say for the last name, In fact, I can fast forward. Okay, I entered all of my messages, error messages, and as you can see, for it's the same for my first four fields, but I only have the difference in my checkbox. So I put exclamation mark, meaning if my checkbox is not checked, or here for the query if none of the radio buttons is checked. Then I will put the error messages. Okay, now I only need to change this a little bit for the email field, because let me show you here. If like you can see here, if we need to make sure that the user entered a valid email address. So if the field is empty, it should be this text. If it's not empty but it's not a valid email, it should be this other message. So I will change this a little bit. I will put curly braces, and I will move this line inside this block, and then I will have else if block, and if for the that other case I will have this other text like this. Now what should I be checking here in this if block? I should be checking if the value user entered is not a valid email, and for that we can use regular expressions to do that. Here I will copy paste this regular expression which will make sure that the entered value is a valid email. And believe me, I have no clue what's going on here. Regular expressions are not my best side at all. I just find them and copy them here. So enough about my knowledge. Let's check what we will be checking. We will be checking if values.email match, and if it match our regex constant. And in fact, if it does not match, so I will put exclamation mark. So if the value for our email does not match this, we will have this error message. Okay, now we will, for every error we have, we will put something inside this object. Okay, and now we need to check if this object, our form should be validated only if this object is empty. So how can we check that? How can we, this is not an array, so we can check if its length is equals to 0. But luckily we can transform it to an array. We can do that with object.keys, and of course here we should put the name of the object. It's form errors, and now we can check the length of this. So if it is equals to 0, we should have our form should be valid. So we can return this from this function, and this validate form function will basically return true or false. If this is 0, meaning that we don't have any errors in our object, our field should be valid. If we have at least one error, our form is invalid. But just I forgot, before we return that, I need to update our error state, of course, because we need that state to render our error messages in our UI. So I will say set errors. I should set errors to our form errors object. Okay, just like that. And in fact, before we start rendering our error messages, let's test this out to see if we were successful. So I will say if validate a form, and of course I should execute this function to get the return. And only in this case, I will console log my values. Okay, let's save this and test it out. Okay, so let's open our live website and let's fill out this form. In fact, let me try to submit the form with not all of the fields. Okay, as you can see, I'm not getting anything logged to the console. Let me fill out all of the fields. Okay, still nothing. Let me also put something in my message. Still nothing. And if I check my checkbox, now all of my fields are filled. I should now have something in my console. Yeah, it's logging my object. Amazing. Our validation logic is working.